We're going to talk to Evan, who's calling in from Colorado. Evan, what's up?
Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Hello.
Hello. What's up, Evan? How can we help?
Hi. So I was wondering what basically your take was on, I would say, like Jungian psychology.
Just in general or anything specific?
Well, more specifically, how it's like used in religion and finding like not metaphors, but looking at mythology, looking at it sort of through that lens. And then I see how somebody like Jordan Peterson uses this in arguments somehow to justify a belief in it.
Yeah. So Jungian psychology stuff is interesting in that it's one of those examples of you can provide a lot of explanations for how things work without demonstrating any kind of falsifiability. And I think that's kind of the primary problem with Jungian psychology, from my understanding. I'm not like a scholar on the subject or anything, but all the ideas that I know about it, retroactively interpreting texts through this kind of analysis. I mean, you're pretty much guaranteed to always have an answer for something if you adopt this framework, and that kind of undermines its ability to really give any kind of meaningful answers. I mean, Jungian psychology is kind of the same thing as like Freudian psychoanalysis. Like it's just there's not a whole lot you can do with it. You just have a lot of assumptions that you can never really demonstrate to be true. And it kind of has its own internal logic to it, which I think is what people find so convincing about it. But it's ultimately kind of, I don't know, it doesn't actually really say anything about how the human mind works on like a physical level. We're not going to get any kinds of, new medications for mental health based on Jungian psychology. Like it's not going to really, I don't think it's really going to help people in a way that we would necessarily want them to. It may provide some sort of sense of answers for people, but like, I don't know how useful it really is or how much it can really tell us about how humans actually work. I don't know. What do you think, Matt?
Well, I don't have any expertise in this area, but I've had to look into it several times because I have spoken with Jordan Peterson on stage, and he's a fan of Jung. Now, of course, Jung met with Freud, and basically I view Jung as like Freud 2.0. He just takes it a step further. But for me, it's a lot of pattern recognition and attempt to find meaning in things like dream analysis and stuff like that, where I think the mistake is in assuming that there's necessarily some significant meaning to begin with.
Yeah.
It's like the people who are arguing, oh, well, naturalism doesn't serve as a grounding for, something in reality. Well, you're beginning by assuming that there is a grounding by what you mean that there is a grounding. And that may not be the case. Oh, well, then the world would evolve into chaos. No. My thing is, there's tons of labels one can put on themselves.
Yeah.
When somebody asks, hey, Matt, what's your philosophical label for your epistemology? Well, the closest I've ever been able to come is found-herentism, which is something that Susan Hawk developed, which is a combination of foundationalism and coherentism. It's not perfectly in line with what I think, but it's really close. When you look at like psychoanalysis, what I think is happening, I think Jordan Peterson's way off the deep end. And we exposed some of that when we were sitting on stage. But that doesn't mean that everything that Freud said or Jung said or anything else is wrong or bullshit or whatever. It just means that I don't feel the need to go, oh, I'm a Jungian or I'm opposed to Jungian psychology. Like, I'm a Humean in the sense that David Hume is, for me, the single most important philosopher on epistemology perhaps of all time. And I think that he solved most of those issues. I just don't have that much of an interest in that type of psychoanalysis where we're trying to get into the psyche of someone and find the meaning. I'd rather deal with cognitive behavioral therapy about and skepticism and real interaction with someone, so that tell me what's bothering you and why you think it's bothering you, because whether or not you're right about why it's bothering you is a secondary issue.
Yeah.
But to say, oh, well, this is all because of your mother. or that type of thing that would be kind of Freudian, I think is a gross oversimplification. So
yeah. And if it'd be interesting if I'm not aware of the data, but if Jungian psychotherapy or Jungian psychoanalysis was actually helpful for people, maybe there's an argument there to consider it for, a more practical use for every day. But I don't know if that data exists. But I could be wrong on that particular front. So anyway, Evan, that's our answers on that. You have any thoughts?
No, that's fair. The only thought that I have was pertaining to the idea of a ritual. Is that more inherently human? And because that usually ends up happening in religion, and it's like, have they appropriated this idea of ritual? I don't know.
I mean, there have been rituals that are secular in nature. And so in that sense, yeah, I guess you could say that religion might appropriate the idea of human ritual, in that ritual is foundationally just a human idea and not necessarily a religious one. You don't have to have a religious connotation. They could be added after the fact. So maybe in that sense, I would agree with you. But I don't know.
I don't have too much concern with there's a number of different categories of rituals.
Yeah.
If you have to spin around in a circle 3 times before you bowl down the lane, or you're wearing your lucky socks, those types of superstitious rituals are probably a flaw. They're almost always going to be a result of flawed thinking, and in the application of skepticism, critical thinking, expecting evidence to confirm something will get rid of those. But for example, somebody could say, well, Matt, you have a ritual on Sundays. You do the atheist experience. Now, granted, I don't do it every Sunday, but I also wake up every morning, or at least try to make it morning. Sometimes it's afternoon. But I eat every day. Does eating make it a ritual?
Yeah.
I like watching a TV show. I watched every episode of WandaVision, and is that a ritual? I don't have a problem with rituals until someone takes that ritual and tries to claim that it's more than what it is, which is, now we're getting back to the sort of Jungian thing, which is, let's find a pattern. Let's find a significant hidden meaning in here. Let's find something in your past. Why are you doing this ritual? Because sometimes the thing that we might want to call ritual, we're just doing because it's fun.
Yeah.
And is it causing a problem?
The other side of that too, being that, there are people who do find power in rituals. I would argue at the end of the day, there could almost always is a secular explanation for whatever effects that they get from those rituals, right? Like people feeling a sense of peace, or people feeling, whatever they get out of it. I don't think anything supernatural is going on there. At least it hasn't been demonstrated to me. I think there are some people who make the case that, it's the ritual of prayer, or the ritual of laying hands on someone will heal someone, and that's one where it's like, okay, well, we can demonstrate whether that's true or not. But people like Matt is saying, we'll take it a step further and say, well, it's actually something deeper in the human psyche, that we have the desire to do rituals because God put us there. Some people will take that route too, which I don't necessarily think that's true.
They can be useful.
So, yeah.
Like I'm a diabetic, and I've been monumentally lazy at different times. And so there are certain rituals that I have that keep me from ending up with my blood sugar too high, or putting on unhealthy amounts of weight, even though in the past I had lots and lots. I was more unhealthy then, but there are, exercising can be a ritual, and it's something that's good, and it doesn't have to be a hidden meaning.
Yeah, for sure. Evan, that's all the time we got for this call. Thank you for calling in.
Thank you.